an epic segue into the next story in this ongoing chronicle of tragedy. It is really, when you think about it, the Medusas, an ongoing tragedy, series of tragedies. It's a very dramatic series. So in case you're just tuning in and you've never watched this show, let me recap. Areia and Capella met a noble blonde elf who identified himself as Lord Finu and began adventuring around searching for a sacred crystal. They gathered together with them a party: Magnus, a crafty elf rogue; Bullstrong, a Goliath barbarian; and Amity, a Tiefling warlock. And throughout their adventures, they gained and they lost. But most recently, after spending some time in the vast with the Goliath tribe of Iron Talon, several major discoveries were made. The chief among which was that Bullstrong regained memory, though still some gaps are shrouded in amnesia, regained memory and came to know his wife, Varna, and their son, Storm. And the chief, Iron Talon, who once was a friend of Bullstrong, made the judgment to banish Bullstrong and Areia and their friends from the valley. Bullstrong, willing to fight for his honor, challenged the chief. A great combat ensued, and Bullstrong was ejected from the Ring of Fire. So you all are now leaving the valley. You're walking away from the tribe. You're heading east, and you travel through the night, and in the morning you are still in the verge, the ring of mountains, but you are on your way south and east towards the Mantirum. Now, some of you know a thing or two about the Mantirum. Amity, you know, for example, that the Mantirum can be a cruel place. They have a very rigid class system. They can be very biased towards those who are powerful and wealthy, and very negatively biased towards those who do not have political power, wealth, or status. You also know that as a magocracy, many, if not most, of the noble families are powerful wizards. Some are sorcerers, some fewer still are warlocks, but most are powerful wizards. Most noble families have multiple wizards within their families. And often when those powerful families obtain a certain level of political and social position, they can, in fact, much like a tribal system, challenge another noble house. So even within the Mantirum, there is struggle. There is a complex, sometimes subtle, but sometimes overt struggle for power. So with that, look at Scroffa's head on my fingertips. Boop. Okay. So morning comes, you guys are exhausted. You haven't had a chance to rest. So you make a camp you rest. Everybody gets a long rest. Everybody gets healed up. Everybody regains spell slots. And you all kind of sleep through the whole day. When you wake up, it is still light out, but it's evening. So do you want to travel through the night to get out of the Verge and into the Mantirum, or do you want to just kind of stay put in your camp and continue to rest up and then leave in the morning?
Stay put?
Yeah, I think it might be easier for us to stay put and then just travel by daylight.
Yeah, I guess it's a little less dangerous.
Well, you can continue at your camp. You found a nice little spot in the Verge where there are some like pine trees and stuff where you can camp underneath. You found enough, dry wood and kindling, and so you kind of decide to stay put at your camp. Who is doing watches? Let's say there's a first, second, and third watch.
I'll do first.
Second.
I'll do third.
Okay. Jordan, make me a perception check for the time spent during your watch.
Okie dokie. Perception. Unnatural 20.
Unnatural 20. Well.
It's always me. Why do we leave me on watch? Every single time I've been on watch, something bad has happened.
Well, there's that one time I was on watch and something bad happened.
Random
Yeah.
clarification. Are Varna and Storm like with us, like traveling with us now?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Absolutely.
party.
And I will say that during the downtime, while you were resting and stuff, there's certainly opportunities to chat with people. No doubt about that. So your unnatural 20 yields that nothing happens. It's strangely quiet. There's a soft, gentle, like rain, but nothing where it's like uncomfortable. And you guys are kind of under the canopy of multiple pine trees. You do your perimeter walk, no major issues. No significant problems.
Okay. Then I'll wake Amity up.
Okay. Amity, make your own perception check during your shift.
All right. It's 4.
Okay. Well, Amity, a funny thing. In the first hour of your watch, it's now like midnight. Nothing, just quiet. The gentle rain actually stopped. You hear the sounds of night creatures, night owl here and there. Nothing that would alarm you. You've got a good grasp of the area around you with your dark vision. And at a certain point in your boredom, you're just kind of sitting around the fire, and you see, as you look up into the sky, you see amazing things in the sky. You
Wow.
see lights, green and yellow and blue lights beginning to swirl up in the sky. It's a familiar sight.
Mhm.
What you notice is that this is to the northwest of you mostly. Like, whereas before when you'd seen the swirling lights, it was kind of the entire sky in every direction you looked. Now this swirling is coming from the northwest.
I wake up Sinjin if she's even like sleeping at the time.
You do. Sinjin's like, yes, what is it?
Well, do you see those lights over there? I point to it.
She goes, "It is Taik."
Oh, so it's not like natural thing.
No,
Wouldn't it be everywhere rather than just a spot?
Taik is something is going on in that direction.
Oh.
Taik is making their presence known.
Probably with the vision.
Those are colors of balance. Something is being opened. She goes into her meditative pose and begins meditating.
Let's wake up. Magnus.
Magnus, you feel a gentle tap as Amity is standing over you, his red skin somewhat luminous from a light in the sky.
Amity, what's that?
Wait, do you see those lights like I do?
I see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Double checking.
A gentle swirling of green and yellow and blue in the sky to the northwest.
Amity, what is that?
I woke up Sinjin and she said it was Taik.
But I wasn't able to see it last time.
Yeah, maybe it's a message for all of us to go there, because Sinjin also said it was like in that direction, a balancing thing that's happening over there.
But what would that mean?
Jennie and Gordon. And Amity. All of you simultaneously feel a burning sensation on your tattoos. And in your minds, you hear the voice of Lord Fainu. And you receive this message. I am free from them's prison.
No.
However, our enemies have obtained the breath of them. Find the remaining crystals. I will contact you tomorrow.
Well, good to see he sorted out his own problems. Now we don't have to go get him.
As this message is revealed to you, the swirling lights in the sky dissipate and the night sky returns to its normal form.
Amity, why'd the lights go away?
Oh, we got a message, and I point to the two others with the
I
tattoo.
pop out of my tent now that I'm awake for the second time in the night.
Yes.
Hey.
Rip.
I just got a message from Fainu.
Same
He
here.
said he's free now,
Mhm.
which is good.
Yeah, it's good.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm gonna go back to bed now because I'm
Wait.
tired.
Is that it?
That makes sense.
Well, he wants us to keep
Finding the other.
finding the crystals because the people who are sort of against us, who are also looking for the crystals, have found one too.
Oh.
So we have one and they have one, but we know sort of where the next one might be.
Sort of.
And here, we have an idea.
Yeah, we're fine. Got an idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'm going back to bed. Good night.
Thank
Okay.
you. Good night.
And with that, your visions of colorful lights dissipate.
Mhm.
Sky is clear. Not many clouds in the sky. Another hour goes past, Amity, and you're looking up at the sky just to see, just in case of any of those lights passing through. You see the moon clearly, as there are not many clouds. And you see a silhouette of something way up high in the sky flying. It's ever so tiny, but it passes up in the sky with the moon behind it, silhouetting it. It's some flying winged creature.
And I rub my eyes to make sure, like, am I seeing things?
It passes through. You see it as long as it's flying with the moon behind it, and then once the moon is no longer behind it, it kind of blends in with the night sky.
Probably just something else, I guess. I should be going to sleep.
And with that, your shift ends. Who's on third watch?
Me.
Okay, make a d20. Roll your perception check.
All right. That's a 29.
Okay. That's more than enough. You are winding up this rest. You feel rested already, but you know, you're kind of curious. You two are looking up into the night sky to see if there's anything interesting. You kind of get up from time to time, do a little walk around the perimeter, feed the fire, make sure that your fire is still going. And not much happens. However, with your extraordinary abilities with perception, you were able to hear from maybe 100 foot away someone approaching the area that you were in.
I run towards it.
Are you stealthing or running?
Stealth.
Okay. Make that stealth check.
Right.
Welcome back to Magnus runs headfirst into dangerous things by himself.
The 15.
Okay. Good enough. You see what looks like maybe like a human or an elf, you're not really sure, with like a variety of like furs and a bow and arrow. And he seems to be not walking towards your camp, but just kind of in the vicinity. And you see him stop. And you're like looking at him from the side. So clearly he doesn't see you. But you see him draw his bow and arrow and he fires and you hear the squeal of an animal. And then he takes off running after it.
Can I
Shortly
keep
thereafter,
following him?
okay, shortly thereafter, you see him standing over a boar. This boar is clearly dead. He is in the process of gutting it. Like literally, you know, he's gutting it.
Yeah.
You sit there and kind of watch him for what seems like, you know, about 20 more minutes. And when he's done, you see that he kind of straps the hooves of the boar around this sturdy branch. And he kind of like heaves this boar carcass over his shoulder and begins walking away. And it looks like he's walking kind of south from where you guys are.
So not towards the camp.
No. You feel like the only reason why you maybe even heard this guy was because of your extraordinary abilities of perception.
Okay.
But he clearly looks like somebody who was out hunting, just bagged a boar, and is now walking to the south.
Okay, I'll go back to camp then.
Okay. All right. You return to camp. Everything seems normal, and time goes by. The dawn comes. Everybody is awake. Everybody is more than rested and healed up and spelled and all that stuff. You guys have, you know, all of your stuff. So where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And how do you want to get there?
Well, Binoop said that we should keep looking for those crystals. And we know the country or like the region that one of them might be in. And we have somebody who knows the Mantirum, you, Amity. So I don't know. I guess we go there unless there's anything else anybody wants to do.
The only other inquiry I had, and I don't know if it holds precedent over our current mission, but I do remember you mentioning to me about the Oracle being some ways in this direction, so if it wouldn't take us entirely out of our path, it may be good to investigate. I'm not sure. What's your guys?
So you guys would have to backtrack back into the mountains and go north to get to the Oracle.
Yeah, and that's probably much further out of our
Not
way.
saying you can't, but I'm just saying right now you're kind of headed more southeast towards the Mantirum.
Yeah, I mean, the
Mhm.
Oracle does deal in divination, so maybe we could go there and find out stuff about Iron Talon, but also like our own personal queries, like if the Oracle could help us figure out maybe where to go or to look for the tier.
Could go to the tier realm since it's a majocracy over there, and we could find maybe a wizard who could dabble in those arts.
But
Side
do you
note.
think that
Oh,
they'd
sorry.
just be willing to help a bunch of strangers? Be like, hey, we're looking for something super rare and mega important. Do you
Not the
think you might be?
class like me, but yeah.
I mean,
but-
right now, since we're already out here, we can probably approach the Mantirum, and then once we find our Firestone again, then we could probably visit the Oracle. But also, Amity, is there a certain way? Because I know that we've already established that we're not like super welcome. But is there a particular way we should enter, or
So to give you guys some idea, where you're coming down from, remember that you're now, like you were east of Mukata when you went up into the mountains. So as you come southeast into the Mantirum, you're entering an area that where there's only really one major city of the Mantirum in this area, and that is kind of like the trade hub between Kabul Kailish and the Mantirum. Now that said, it's also a fortified city, and it's an old fortified city. So the name of the city is Zidmer. It has 100-foot tall walls and a great gate in each one of the cardinal directions.
I am great at climbing.
But as I said, despite it being this massive fortified city with a standing army, it is also a trade hub between Kabul Kailish and the rest of the Mantirum. That's the closest city that you are nearest to. If you wanted to travel east and cross the river, you could get to the coast, and on the coast is where you would find the capital city. The capital city of Orisvechi is a massive city. And some people say that it's the oldest city. It's the first city that was ever created on the entire continent. Now, to the south of that are a bunch of other smaller cities and towns spread out throughout the Mantirum. But those kind of options are, I guess, what you could say is like the closest to where you're at. But by your reckoning, between those of you who have history and those of you like Amity who know a little bit about the Mantirum, you're probably still a good 35 to 40 miles away from the nearest city once you get out of the mountains.
Is Trizzle in the Mantirum?
That's, well, from what you were able to identify, the Baron is an emissary from the Mantirum. Now, the closest major city to Kabul Kailish, where you guys had last run into them, would be the fortified city of Zidmer.
I say we go there then.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Woot woot.
Okay.
Right. And that's,
Okay, Amity, do you know how to get there?
No.
oh,
The people with the highest levels of history and survival between all of you guys. So figure out who has the highest history and then the highest survival. And those will be the people who make the rolls.
My history is garbage.
My history is +6.
My survival is +6.
So then whoever has the highest, so Virginia, you're gonna do your history roll.
Does anyone else have higher than a 6? Cool. Okay. That's a 21.
More than good enough. So here's what you would be able to recall. The chunk of land southeast of the Verge that is part of the Mantirum, on which Zidmare, the capital, sits, is kind of open no man's land. There's a mixture of different kind of woodland environments. At one point in time, there were a lot of bamboo forests, but a lot of that had been harvested and cut down. So it's kind of a mix of deciduous trees and bamboo forest groves. There's even some bogs and some tall grassland. So it's kind of a mix of flora in that geographical region. But you do know that while there might not be a lot of roads from where you are to this city, that once you get to that city, there are an abundance of roads and, more importantly, waterways, because the lakes and rivers that interconnect through the Mantirum are quite often used to move people and goods between different cities and towns and villages around the Mantirum. What'd you get for your survival roll? Or did you roll yet?
I did not roll yet, but I'll do it right now. That is also a 21.
More than good enough. You feel like your best chance is to get out of the Verge, down onto the mainland, and travel due south and a little bit east to get to Zidmare, because you feel like if you guys can make that trek, especially since you're on horseback, once you're out of the Verge and out of the rocky foothills, you'll be able to make pretty good time.
Okay, cool.
Okay. I share my knowledge with the rest of the group.
I
Okay.
also share my knowledge with everyone else.
Okay. So everyone has horses. Yeah?
Yes.
And I'm going to say that Varna's riding her horse with her son, like riding with her. Right?
Mhm.
And then is Sinjin riding with someone, or is she have her own horse?
I don't think
I
so.
was- I thought she was riding with Amity before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go again.
We'll say that that's the jam. So you guys pack up your camp. You get on your horses with all your stuff, and you start heading out of the Verge. You travel for about 4 hours, and right around noon, you kind of descend out of the Verge, out of the foothills, and you see this vast plain in front of you, for as far as the eye can see, and it's a lot of open ground with tall grass, like prairie and meadow stuff, with crops of trees, like mostly deciduous trees, in groves. And it looks like just at the edge of the horizon, as far as you could see, there might be thicker, denser forest. But you could clearly see, and with your survival check, you kind of know your orientation now, that if you head south for quite a ways, you'll make decent time. So you guys travel along. another couple hours into your journey, you guys are going through the open land, and a few hundred yards up ahead, you see like a little grove of trees, and you see like smoke, like maybe from like a campfire.
Do you guys think we should approach them?
And hurt.
This is like, wait, this is like, 200 or 300 yards ahead of you.
Oh.
So what do you want to do?
Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
We always love trouble.
Are we going on horseback or like going on horses and then when we get closer?
Maybe
we're
we should
going?
tie up the horses.
I mean, I'd
Unless
want
they
to stay on my
choose.
horse, but that's me.
But you're good with horses. I'm bad with horses.
We could ride our horses up there and then.
Well, yeah, like ride them close and then see what's shaking.
Okay.
What's shaking?
I like that.
You guys get up quite a bit closer. We'll say that, you go a couple hundred yards closer, and you can definitely see now that there's a grove of trees, and it looks like some camp. To get a lot more information, though, you'd have to get closer.
Magnus.
Okay.
Like you could see a wagon,
Closer.
you could see some horses, and you see some people, but you can't quite make out a lot more detail than that. Who's going up, and are you stealthing?
I will.
Magnus, yes.
Okay, make your stealth check.
Awesome. That's a 17.
You kind of creep through the tall grass, and you get within about 100 feet. Now you
On your camera.
can clearly see that there is a tent. There is also a wagon, and the wagon's like a covered wagon, so it's got like a barrel top, and it's got some kind of cloth stretched over it. You see a couple horses that are hobbled but like grazing, and you see what looks like a spit that's been set up over a campfire, and there's a boar being roasted on it.
Oh.
And
Yo.
you see what looks like might be the man that you saw, the hunter that you saw, tending to the spit and just slowly turning it. And there's two other guys who aren't wearing armor or anything. They're just wearing normal clothes, kind of sitting on stumps around this campfire with like plates of meat and just like eating, and they seem to be talking. Out of the just at a slightly different angle where you can't quite see, they seem to be looking up at whoever is sitting in the driver's seat of the wagon, but you can't see who that person is, but they seem to be like talking and laughing and joking with that person.
Okay. I'm gonna go back and tell everyone like, hey, so there's this guy I saw when we were when I was keeping watch for you guys. And he seemed pretty harmless, he just like killed the boar. I mean, not harmless, but harmless to us. But you know what I mean.
Utterly harmless.
Harmless to us. He didn't bother us or anything, so it was fine. He just killed the boar and walked away. But it looks like that guy is over there, so I think we should introduce ourselves.
I mean, there's plenty of travelers on the road.
There's no road. You guys,
Oh,
whoever these people are, clearly didn't go on a road. Now, I will say, I'll let you. Who has survival?
I kind of
I
do.
also have proficiency.
+4.
All right, if you have proficiency, just all of you with proficiency in survival, just make a survival check.
I have a d20.
Unnatural 20.
7.
7.
Areia, upon hearing this information gathered from Magnus, it occurs to you that there are no roads, and you're wondering where these people came from. So you kind of search the area further out where you guys are, and eventually come to tracks. And you see now that their tracks seem to have come from the west, as if they were coming from the west to the east. You are pretty sure it's them because you see the horse, the hoof prints and the wagon tracks. I feel like this could definitely be where they were coming from. Whereas you guys are kind of coming from the north, they seem to have come from the west.
Okay. So
And
I'll tell everybody it seems like they came from the west. So maybe they're from Kabul Kailash. But I wonder what they're doing out here. I'm also curious.
It seems like an odd coincidence that I would see this guy where our camp is and now we're seeing him again. So I think we should go talk to him. That's just me though.
The last time you talked to a friendly civilian, they also came to our camp and tried to kill us.
It's
It's just
fine.
fine.
It's fine. We'll just talk to him.
But they didn't kill us.
Okay.
Yeah, see, we're not dead.
But I'm staying on my horse. So.
Okay.
All right.
Are we all going? Is this like a group thing? Is Varna coming with us?
Yeah, those are questions to which I need answers before you proceed.
Oh no.
I'll go
We
with
all gonna run up
Magnus.
there?
We could all go. That's probably the best idea, I think.
Sure. I don't see why not.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay. You guys begin approaching. You get to within about 100 yards, and you see that it appears like you've been noticed. Because you see the guy that was tending to the spit, the hunter, he kind of like pops his head out, runs back, grabs his bow and arrows, and then he kind of comes to the back of the cart. Now he doesn't draw, but he's holding his bow and he's got an arrow in his other hand. And he says, "Oh there, what business do you have?"
Hi. we just saw you out here and we're wondering what you're doing over here.
Well, it's a beautiful day, so we just decided to go for a gentle ride. We're on our way to the city. How about you?
We're also on the way to the city. I saw you, or at least was that you? I think I saw you like kill a boar a little bit back.
He seems like caught off guard.
I swear I'm not stalking you. I'm sorry. I was keeping watch for my camp, and I saw you, and I was worried that you were like someone dangerous. So I saw you kill the boar, and then I was like, oh, okay, you're just killing a boar, and then walked away.
Make perception check.
Okay.
Can I make an insight check on the first thing that he said when they said they're just going for a ride?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't believe him.
16.
What's your insight check?
14.
You don't feel like he was telling you the truth. He's not
Oh,
a very
no.
good liar.
Oh.
I
With your
give
perception check.
I give the eyeballs to Capella to let her know that somebody's lying.
As you're talking to this guy, and remember, you're still like 100 feet back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You notice just briefly over his shoulder, there's some ruffling from inside of the wagon.
Some ruffling?
Like someone or something is moving inside of that covered wagon.
What you got in that wagon there?
He's like, trade supplies, just crops, some wheat.
Can I see it moving?
No, it stopped. It was just ever so brief.
I turn because we're pretty far back, right? Like if I whisper to the group, will he be able to
Yeah,
hear me?
there's no way he would hear.
Okay, I turn to everybody and say, this seems really familiar. Like we've done this dance before with people trying to hide stuff from us and it didn't really go well. I don't think that I think that they're lying. I think that they're lying.
Yeah, this seems pretty sus. But
It
if
seems
it's
like
something
Chisel-
worth hiding, then it means it's something worth us to find.
It could be like Trizzle 2.0. Remember that whole
No,
debacle?
that's what I'm worried about.
That's true, but there's no town guards out here, right? So
Yeah, and
if
we've got
something
weapons. I don't
if
think we
something
should.
tragic were to happen, is there evidence tying us here?
I just want to make sure that they're not like hiding any people or something.
Yeah,
You know,
we should definitely check it out.
the Manturum is known for slave trading, so I wouldn't be surprised.
As
Let's
you're
see what
talking
slaves
about
they got.
this, as you're talking about this, Magnus, you see the two other men who you saw before when you scouted this. They now kind of walk out from the camp area, and you notice that they're wearing the upper half of leather armor, and each of them has like a sword and a shield. And they walk up behind the guy with the bow, and you see them doing their own like talking.
You mind if we join you guys?
I
The
think
hunter-
they would.
The hunter like looks back at the other guys, and one of them nods and runs over to the wagon. And then when he gets to the wagon, you see him like lean in, and he seems to be like talking to someone in the wagon. And then you see his head pop out, and he like looks at you guys, and then he pops back into the wagon. And then he comes back out, and he runs over to the guy with the bow. And he whispers to the guy with the bow. And the guy with the bow says, "You two Goliaths, how many are there?"
Two
He's
that
like-
you can see.
He's like,
3.5.
"Is one of you
Oh,
named
right.
Areia and the other Bullstrong?"
Who's asking?
Not good.
Well,
Yes. Who's asking?
he turns and looks at the one guy. The guy runs back to the wagon, and he pops his head in the wagon.
Bro. If we don't
Well,
get some
clearly
answers-
we're familiar, so that's a good
Well,
sign.
I'm hoping
He
it's
pops his
good
head in the
and
wagon.
not
I
bad
vote
for
that
me.
I vote that we just start walking forward.
And as you start walking forward, you see a face pop out of the wagon.
Who's in the
My
wagon?
friends, so well met to see you. Come, join us in our tent. It is I, Blazu Orc Smasher. Yes, I am here, believe it or not.
Oh,
Indeed. Come, friends. And little Blazu Orc Smasher jumps down from the back of the wagon. And he just seems gleeful as he trots through the tall grass towards you guys as you approach. And he's like, how fortuitous.
Hi, Blazu.
Where are my lucky charms? No, he's like, welcome, my friends. I'm so elated. Come join us. He's like, gentlemen, back to our camp. These are friends. Yes, indeed. Well met. And as you guys approach, Blazu's like looking up at you at your horses, and he's like, oh, I see you have gathered more Goliaths to your cause, eh? Hmm?
We have.
He made
And
one
who
of
are
them.
they? Well, who are they?
my wife and my son.
A wife and son. Indeed.
Fully
Bullstrong.
founded.
Well, come to our camp. Yes.
Thank you.
And he strides through the tall grass. You guys get to the grove of trees, and you see now what Magnus had revealed. This camp seems to be pretty well set up. The men seem to be a lot more at ease now that like Blazu has recognized you. They're kind of back in the camp, just kind of like looking at you guys, like as if seeing this many people was not what they expected. So Blazu, after you guys like dismount from your horses, he's like, come, are you hungry?
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. I have hired these fine young men. This is Jeffrey. He is the scout. And, of quite a fine hunter, as you can see by this pleasantly smoked pork, which we are enjoying. Please help yourselves. There's far too much for us to eat.
Thank you so much.
Jeffrey nods at you and he's like, well met. He's like, he starts pulling off chunks of the cooked meat and putting it onto wooden plates and kind of handing it to you. Varna and young Storm Mountain both grab plates and begin eating the meat. You get the sense that they prefer fresh meat versus the dried rations that you guys were eating the previous day. So Blazu's like, so friends, when last we parted, you were on your way to parts unknown. Tell me, were you successful? Was it your purpose to go and to bring, I'm sorry, what is her name? And Varna looks up, she's like, I'm Varna. This is my son, Bullstrong's son. His name is Storm Mountain. Ah, well met, young lad. You bear the great height and strength of your father and clearly also your mother. And how old is the lad? She's like, 2. And he's like, come again? What? He's taller than me. My, they grow large, don't they, Goliaths? Yes. So, friends, what brings you to this area? Are you on your way to the Mantirum now?
We are. What brings you here?
Well, an interesting happenstance, as it were. You recall my humble cottage, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And shortly after you left, we were visited. I had a dream, a vision. It was an odd dream. Seemed very strange and foreign to me. But in this dream, there were whispers which spoke to me to find a place of fire, a place ringed in fire.
God, that's what we're doing.
Indeed.
Well, you see, I don't know if you recall the last time we needed your help to get the other item of our quest, and I wanted to look around and see, is any of his guards like with us right now?
No, they're kind of seated on the stumps around the fire. One of them's like taking a nap.
So I was gonna just show him the blue one and just kind of peek it out.
He's like, that is spectacular. What does it do?
We're not quite sure really. It is something of a godstone. All that we've summed so far is that they're sort of attributed to the gods and their elements. So this
And
one
that-
being
The element of water.
yes.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. I am not necessarily what you would call adept at elemental magic per se, but I am certain that those in the Mantirum would be. However, I should caution you, friends, to be careful. The Mantirum can be a treacherous place, as I'm sure our young friend Amity knows.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Now then, in this strange vision, this dream that I had that spoke to find a ring of fire, there was a reference. And the voice spoke to me. And in its voice, it said, find the Vorsu in the mouth of Deepa. Do you have any idea what this could mean?
Orsu!
God, we do. We used to have a traveling companion called Vorsu. It was like, I don't know if you are familiar with they're these little imp-like fire creatures that are associated with Deepa, but we had somehow befriended one more or less thanks to Amity, and he just flew away.
We're too big.
Nope, no idea. Never heard of it. Unless I got a I got a 3 on my Arcana check. He's like, well, that sounds fascinating. One thing of curiosity. In this dream, I was hearing this voice, and the voice guided me, and I could suddenly fly. And I flew over the land. And when at last I reached the coast, I saw a cliffside, a great cliffside. And over my shoulder, I saw a mighty city gleaming in the sun. And as I flew past the cliff, and I flew over the ocean, I looked back, and embedded within the cliff was a great ring of fire. Do you know anything about such a place?
Amity, didn't you say that the capital city of the Mantirum was a place on the coast?
It is. Well, there are many cities and towns along the coast, but the capital city, Orasveci, it's got the main capital city is so big that it extends in the eastern quarters up to a harbor. But what he's describing doesn't necessarily sound like, to your knowledge, Amity, there's no like cliffs. Like it's at land level, and there's like a harbor where ships can dock. So you're kind of curious about the whole cliffs thing.
Areia, we just at the coast of the Manchurian Kingdom, there's no cliffs that he mentions, so I don't know what he's talking about clearly. We have to dig more into that though. At least we got an image of where it is.
It might have something to do with that that volcano thing we were hearing about, the mouth of Deepa.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something like that.
Well, what's curious about that is that there also isn't any, again, Amity is not aware of any volcano, active or inactive, in the Mantirum, which is part of the confusion. So Blazu begins telling you guys, like, while you're eating, he begins telling you of some of his great stories of adventures. You, knowing Blazu, know that like 15% of the stories is true, and like the other 85% is like highly embellished or flat out not true. But it's nice, you know, for like about an hour. You guys are chatting and stuff. And then Blazu's like, well, we should be heading out. Tell me, are you on your way to the city of Zidmer? Then, by all means, join us on the road, friends.
Fantastic, thank you.
He's like, one moment, I might have something for the young lad. And he goes over to his wagon, and he comes back with this strange, it looks like a sculpture made of metal, of like a small bird. And he's like, look, young man, look, behold, this statue of a bird is actually quite magical. If you press the feet here, it will fly. And he presses the feet down, and the little statue, metal statue, goes like, and it pops out little wings, and the wings start flapping.
That's
And
so cool.
Storm Mountain's like, yay! And he's like having fun with it. He's like, yes, you may play with that while we travel. Now let's go, Jeffrey, shall we? Jeffrey nods. You see he takes a few good slabs from the boar and puts them into a box, which looks like it has a layer of like salt crystals in it, and closes the box up, puts it into the wagon. They get their horses, tethered up to the wagon, and the wagon slowly begins to move forward. You notice that Jeffrey is on his own horse, and he rides ahead about 100 feet from the wagon. And the two other men are riding the wagon, and Blazu's kind of hanging out on some pillows in the back of the wagon with all of the supplies. So as you guys are following behind the wagon, Blazu takes this opportunity to continue to tell you an amazing story about the Temple of Ultimate Magic and how he was once adventuring with a powerful group of heroes who had to recover a sacred artifact from a powerful temple that was guarded by a wicked archmage, and how every magical trap imaginable protected this arcane keep. But one amongst them, a mahogany-skinned master monk named Lavo, was able to defeat nearly 23 of these magical traps consecutively and made it to the very door of the tower in which the artifact dwelled. And when he opened the door, he was disintegrated. But that story, like imagine in detail Blazu describing every trap, every bit of magic. So that story takes about 2.5 hours on the road. So by mid-afternoon, you guys have listened to Blazu's stories, at which time he's like, I am fatigued. I'm going to take a nap. And then he kind of like props up some blankets and pillows inside of the wagon, and he rolls over and closes the curtains. You guys continue traveling. Day turns into night. Nighttime comes, and Jeffrey rides back towards you guys, and he's like, we could travel through the night, or we could find a campground somewhere around here. What think you?
We got a lot of rest through the night. What do you guys think?
Yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, I think we're pretty well rested because we slept, but we could, I don't know, we can make camp if we want to.
I think we could definitely push a little further.
Well, you have me at a disadvantage. I do not have the same night vision that you folk may have. I am used to drawing the travels to a close at dusk. But should any of you want to take up the lead and lead the caravan, I would entrust you with the duty.
I'll do it.
Okay.
You
All right.
also want, I can like touch Magnus. I don't know if like you have a particular bit of like accessory that hangs off. Like if I could just touch like, don't you usually have like a bow and arrow?
Yeah.
So like the quiver on your back, I can just give that light cantrip. So it makes it easier for our non-night vision friends to see you.
Yeah.
Offense to that.
You have one eye.
They don't.
One
So-
arrow.
As you guys kind of switch it up, the drivers, like one of them rolls back in to sleep in the wagon while the other one's driving the wagon. And Jeffrey brings his horse to the rear of the wagon. There's a lantern hanging on a hook from the front and from the back. And then for the rest of you who all have dark vision, you guys are seeing pretty well. It's a clear night sky. You have plenty of moonlight. So Magnus, and so you guys that decide to go up ahead, you guys kind of take over for Jeffrey. You lead, and throughout the night, the drivers and Jeffrey each take turns sleeping, so they kind of rotate for rests. And you guys travel through the rest of the night. Magnus, make your first perception check while you're taking point.
Okay. 29.
Clear travel. Occasionally you kind of come to some wet, mucky ground, and you kind of lead the group around it so the wagon doesn't get stuck. But overall, you're making good time. All right, who's on second point?
I'll go.
Roll. Okay. Similar. You're on your way. You find nice patches of for miles that are clear, and you're able to lead the group through. And third point.
I'll
Who's up
do
here?
third.
Okay,
Is
Capella.
it perception or just roll?
Perception.
12.
In the last few hours of the night, your travel goes, for the most part, very well. As dawn is breaking, still the night sky, but like the sun is just cresting, starting to rise. You see what looks like a small like hamlet, like maybe a farming area. And you start to see like actual like wood post fencing. You see crops. You're kind of coming into a little bit of like a civilized area. And you come across basically like a dirt road that runs along one of the fence lines. You lead the group through, and you're on this road. You actually pass by a farm. You see some cows like out in the field. They look like they're still asleep. You pass by another farm, and for several miles, like 10 miles, you just pass by these either solo farms or small hamlets where there's like a cluster of buildings with farmland around them. And as day breaks, you start to hear like roosters crowing and stuff, and you see people up and about. And you guys are now in the morning on the road. It is just a basic dirt road. There's nothing fancy about it, but you're definitely on a road now. People start to kind of wake up in shifts. You guys see Blazu kind of pop his head out of the wagon, and he's like, "Oh, quite pleasant. We must be nearing the civilized lands within the Mantirum now." "Yes, well." He's like, "I don't know about you, but I could do for some breakfast. Shall we inquire about the hospitality with these neighbors?"
Sure.
Why not?
So you guys kind of like, you travel a little bit more, and you come across another farm, and you see like people out actually working. You see a bunch of humans out in the fields actually working. And you notice this farmhouse looks pretty nicely kept. So Jeffrey kind of rides up to the farmhouse and dismounts from his horse, and you see him kind of approach the farmhouse and knocks on the door. And a few moments later, he returns, and he's like, "I spoke with the steward of the house. He said his lord is not in, but they would be happy to give us breakfast should we wish to stop here. I did mention that I had a gold handy, and he was more than happy to take it. So I think it's safe to assume we could stop and eat here."
Fantastic.
So you guys kind of pull the cart off, tether up your horses on some posts, and you go up to this house. The door opens, and there is a tiefling who is at the door. He has blue skin, and he greets you. And he sees you, Amity, and he's like, he steps back and he does this to you. He's like, "Please come in. My lord is away at business, but we are happy to grant you hospitality." He brings you into a large room with a huge dining table. And he's like, "Please be seated." And you notice he like snaps his fingers 3 times. And these human men bring in plates of food and big platters of food. There's fruit, there's bread, cheese, meat. So you guys all kind of sit down, and he's like, "Enjoy." And then he steps out of the room. So you guys eat. Young Storm Mountain just goes to town on the food. Like he's eating up everything that's around him. And Varna is also eating. Blazu
Like
seems
his father.
genuinely, yes, Blazu seems genuinely happy to be sitting in a chair and eating. And he begins telling you the tale of the time that he had to defeat several different oozes and black puddings, which were defending the arcane tower of Amet Kun. And he tells you this fantastical story about how only his spells, combining the powers of fire and lightning, were able to defeat these horrific, nightmarish, ambient creatures. And this tale lasts for most of breakfast. And then shortly after you guys finish, the blue-skinned tiefling kind of barges into the room. And he's like, "My apologies, my friends. I must ask you to stand as our Lord has returned."
Will do.
Okay.
Okay.
Backs out of the room and he opens up the door. And he's like, "My Lord Fazan, I present to you these travelers who have come from Kabul Kailish." And he's like looking at you guys. He's like, "Yes, come from Kabul Kailish." And you see a red-skinned tiefling walk in. He is wearing a long cape and noble silk clothes. His fingers are adorned in jewelry. He has a necklace with an amulet that is made of gold and diamonds. And when he walks into the room, he looks at all of you. His gaze stops at Amity. And he steps back and does this.
Do it back. Do it back.
And then he steps forward and he says, "Welcome to my home. I am sure your travels have been unharried by any problems. You did not suffer any inconveniences or distresses on the road through my lands, did you?" Excellent. It would be my pleasure to provide you with any additional hospitality that you wish.
Thank you, sir.
He looks at all of you and he's like, "Perhaps you would like baths."
Sure, thank you.
Yes,
very much,
please.
sir.
He looks to the blue-skinned tiefling, and in their native tongue of Infernal, he speaks. And the tiefling nods 3 times and like runs off down the hallway. Please feel free to stay as long as you wish. My house and my hospitality are yours. If you would excuse me, I have matters to which I must attend. He looks at all of you again, looks at Amity, and then he walks away. And you notice that both the blue-skinned tiefling and the Lord, when they left the room, they did not turn their backs on you until they were in the hallway. They backed out of the room and then turned and walked away. You notice that both of them did that.
Can I do like a history check or something? Or
Could.
Does
Or
Amity like
Amity-
know that?
Amity
Yeah.
could explain to you that this is a sign of respect. So that things like hospitality and mutual respect within their culture for those who are either slightly above, well, definitely above them in the caste system, or even on par with them, is a very important cultural thing.
Huh.
That it would be like an insult to turn his back on you if you were one of his peers, or definitely if you were someone above him. It would be an insult.
good to know. So
I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling very culturally enriched in our last couple stops.
I know, right?
Or, you
Wait,
know,
so if we leave a room, are we gonna have to do the same thing?
Amity explains to you that there are customs that you can adopt as a foreigner that show respect and understanding, and that in turn, the nobility within the Mantirum will think a little bit more highly of you as like somebody cultured, but at the same time, they don't expect it. Like if you didn't follow these customs, they wouldn't expect it because basically you're inferior. So they don't expect you to necessarily know their customs. But if you do perform the correct levels of etiquette, it speaks more highly of you in how they look at you. However, for Amity, it's crucial that he represent himself at his level. And you know that for them to speak in Infernal amongst each other is not meant to be something like they're hiding from you. It's more just like they choose to speak the common tongue with people who they assume only speak the common tongue.
Does the other, that rule prior mentioned also apply to the little forehead tap thing?
Yeah, that's something that is pretty much exclusively done from nobility to nobility. It's a greeting that represents the magocracy in the sense of the enlightened mind, like greets you.
Amity, what do you know like what the levels here are? Like different skin colors are better or worse than other ones?
Also, is the blue one a slave?
Yes, very much.
No, he wouldn't be a
Never mind. Scratch that.
Scrap.
he wouldn't be a slave. He wouldn't be a slave per se, just
like a
based
typo.
on like his skin tone. But he's not as high up as the red-skinned one.
Because the like jewelry
Okay.
money represents.
So he's like a housekeeper or whatever. He's not like a slave.
Like a house
Right.
servant.
So blues and reds are typically close in caste. You know that like yellow, green, and orange skinned tieflings are rare and not as highly not as high up the social ladder as blues and reds. And typically purple skinned tieflings are the highest caste. So it wouldn't be uncommon to see a steward who is blue working for a lord who is red, or vice versa, because they're very close in caste.
Okay.
But it would be virtually unheard of to see a purple-skinned tiefling that is of a lower caste than a red, blue, orange, yellow, any of the other colors.
Okay. Good to know. So you're higher up on the food chain than Amity, which means you can get us better stuff here.
You guys have such weird customs.
Yeah, our customs are completely normal. I don't know what's wrong
Yeah.
with you guys, but
No fallacies
proper
in terms
etiquette.
at all.
What are you talking about?
Varna's like, I agree, but their food is good. And she like takes a huge bite out of like a turkey leg.
We'll take the food.
Thank you, Varna.
By the way, this whole time you notice that Sinjin has only eaten salad.
My
Why?
God, she's on a
Is
diet.
is Sinjin a vegan?
Like vegetables, fruits, salad, just like small little portions.
Like a rabbit?
Maybe because of Taik.
Why?
Blazu,
Bodies
on the
type.
other hand, seems very entertained by all of this. He's like, this is wonderful. Truly a fascinating
Like-
cultural difference, is it not?
Traveling with like roughly a dozen people currently.
You know, I am quite looking forward to a bath. It has been days since we have had these luxuries. What a welcome experience to have here. And my first journey, well, I shouldn't say my first, of course. Remember the great adventure that I had 20 years ago with the mighty Thorg, who helped me defeat a tribe of ogres that were threatening the Mantirum themselves. Yes, yes. I was given great heroic accords. I should find that amulet and the pendant that they gave me. Yes, but first a bath. So the steward comes back in, short order, takes you guys like to these rooms where each one of you has a private bath. You notice that all the servants providing these services in each one of these bathing rooms are humans.
Neat.
Is there any reason for that?
You don't know.
Humans are probably
they slaves?
inferior. Are humans inferior?
You don't see any shackles on the humans. You don't see any indicators of their position. Do you want to ask them?
I'm not gonna ask them. I think that might be a little bit much.
You a slave?
Just you. Bullstrong will probably ask them.
Do you?
You happen to be a slave?
The manservant in your bath area is like,
Okay.
yes, my lord, of course.
Of course.
How did they catch one of you guys?
I am of a noble slave family. My family has served this house for generations.
Oh, slave.
Yes.
Kind of redundant. Not to be offensive, of course. Is that like a common thing?
Don't the nobles in your land have slaves as well?
No. There's like one noble, I guess.
I heard that your kind captures people and enslaves them all the time. Is this not true?
No, it isn't true.
Do you?
I haven't personally witnessed that.
But don't you capture dwarves and eat them? Isn't that what Goliaths do?
I mean, unless they happen to be like a pig or something, no.
That's just
Dwarves with beards. Don't you capture them and eat them?
I think that's just a
Seems like a stereotype.
that just might
Kind
be
of
a,
racist.
yeah, that might just be a
He
table.
seems 1,000% serious. Like he's asking you if 2 + 2 = 4. Like he's like, I'm confused. I thought I apologize. I do not mean to offend you. But we were always taught growing up that your kind travels the mountains and hunts dwarves and eats them.
People just tell you that to make you scared of us.
Well, why do you travel with that gnome?
He's funny.
He's sort of traveling with us, I think.
He's a cool guy.
Is it true? Is it true that gnomes drink the blood of human children?
Oh, well,
They're
definitely
edible.
no. What?
No.
They don't? Well, then
No.
how do they have magic? I don't understand.
Let's not like break this guy's whole reality right now.
There is no spoon.
Things work a lot different in other areas, but
You mean to
as
say that the gnomes don't have a monthly ritual where they drink the blood of the human children to renew their magic?
No. Who told you all of this?
Maybe
that's
like
culture,
maybe
man.
like one of them.
He's like, then how do they? So they can't turn into mice?
I think they can talk to mice. Other than that, I unless they're like, you know, they have some crazy magic spell you learn from like a book or something.
Then how do they get all their gold? If they don't drink the blood of the children for their magic rituals, how do they get all of their gold?
Check me. I wouldn't know.
Earning
You
it?
know, you
By
got me
doing
there.
jobs.
You really got me there. I apologize.
I apologize if my ignorance offends you, my lord. And he like backs away with his eyes down. When you guys finish up your baths, you're dried off with like the cleanest linen towels that you've ever. They're like soft, cottony, towels that are absorbent. And then the servants bring you like these different perfumes and like oils. And they like, unless you're like, no thanks, they like start like, just like it's normal, like they oil you up and they
Gross.
like put perfumes on you, and then they give you robes. It's basically like a spa. And
That's awesome.
hours later, the steward returns and is like, all of your clothes have been cleaned. They are drying in your rooms. My lord has offered you dinner and your rooms for the night, should you wish to stay. Dinner will be in about 1 hour.
How kind. Thank you.
Can't wait.
So I'm assuming this house has like a lot of space if he's like room and boarding roughly a dozen people.
There are about 20 rooms. So you guys like have noticed while you're there during the day that it seems like the humans who are in the house are wearing although they're not like shackled, they're wearing like very clean, like white linen blouses, like chemises and like clean pants and slippers. The humans that are working the fields are wearing like basic like farm clothes. Like they have like wide brim hats to protect them from the sun. They have like brown shirts and like brown pants. So at a certain point, like as you guys are just like luxuriating and waiting for dinner, and you're gazing out the window, you hear a bell, and you notice like the humans all kind of like set down their tools or bring their tools back to the barns, and like they go over to this big trough, like a horse trough, and they wash off their hands and their arms, their faces, using this common water. Then you notice they go to this large pavilion with no walls. It's just a pavilion with a roof, and there's like long picnic tables with benches, and you see food being brought out from the house and just laid out in big pots, and a few loaves of bread, but it mostly just looks like some kind of a stew with like meats and vegetables thrown into it. And you see all these farm workers kind of sitting out there, and they're having dinner. Shortly after this, you hear a much more gentle chime echoing throughout the house, which signals dinner for you. You guys descend from your different rooms, and once again, you go into the dining room. And this time the Lord is there, but he's dressed in a gold silk robe, like he just got out of the bath, and that's all he has on. And he's sitting at the head of the table. And when you guys come in, he stands and waits for everyone to kind of like get to their chairs. And then he greets Amity, and then he bows to all of you, and then he sits down. And once everybody's seated, he looks over to his right, and the steward claps his hands twice. Humans bring in food, and it's like the most epic banquet that you've seen in ages. Like there's all sorts of like fresh fish. There's meats, like 3 or 4 different kinds of meats, cheeses, breads. There's like fruits. There's like soups. There's all sorts of food that's brought out. So the food is served, and Blazu begins like talking. He's like, "So, my lord, you truly have a splendid and most noble household. I am greatly appreciative for your wondrous hospitality. Tell me, what is it within your country that you must do to amass such wealth and influence?" And the Lord, he like kind of looks at Blazu, and then he nods, and he's like, "My family has owned the land west of Zidmer for 10 generations. This land, all the way up into the mountains, has been our family's land. We are honored to provide much of our surplus from these lush and fertile agricultural lands to the city of Zidmer, and in return, we are afforded great respect and honor amongst the court. We are truly blessed. And he smiles. So, if any of you have any questions or want to discuss anything at any point during the dinner, you may. Otherwise, the dinner discussion is mostly Blazu asking questions and the Lord answering the questions.
Could I approach one of the human slaves? Because, like,
By approach, do you mean get up from the table during dinner, leave it, and go talk to a human?
could I do it after dinner?
So you go to the
Maybe.
bathroom.
Is Varna sitting close to me?
Yes.
Can I ask her if she's ever eaten a dwarf?
She laughs. She's like, no. Why would I eat a dwarf? Ugh, that's disgusting. You
No
notice
problem.
when you say that and she responds that the Lord looks like mildly confused. He's like, and he summons the steward. In Infernal, he says something. Does anyone speak Infernal?
Everybody
Andrea?
Yeah,
does.
understood.
Amity, you hear the Lord speak to the steward, and he says, I suppose we will not need the chilled dwarf brains for dessert. And the blue-skinned tiefling, the steward nods and backs up out of the room.
Oh my
I
god!
love that. That's amazing.
Horrible.
So the dinner goes quite nicely.
Wait, I have a question for Lord Fazan. I want to ask him if he knows of an emissary to Kabul Kailish known as Baron Arzak.
Are you asking this question truthfully?
Yes, like I want to know if he knows him and like where he's from in the Mantirum.
Okay. Make a insight check.
Okay. Ooh, that's good. That is a 23.
His reaction is like this. He's like, I have not heard of such a person. By what name did you say? What family? What noble family? When he responds to you in exactly that fashion,
Mhm.
you sense that he is very uncomfortable.
Oh.
He's like, I'm not sure of that name. What family was this person from?
Well, I'm not really sure. We met somebody on the road who said that they were from the Mantirum, and we just were, like, we had a couple run-ins with him, and he just has something that belongs to us. So, we just kind of left it with him, but if we ever saw him again, I was just gonna ask for it back. But he didn't say where he was from, so
And you saw this one where?
he was in Kabul Kailish.
And Mukata Suv.
Mm-hmm. We saw him in a couple different places.
Yes, it is difficult to know everyone, for there are so many members of the great bureaucracy. But perhaps if I could discover his family name, that would help to narrow down who he is and what position he holds. I apologize for not knowing this information. You wouldn't happen to have any items of his that I could use to divine more about him, would you?
Do we have anything from him?
I don't think so.
Didn't
I don't think we actually
Did we
had
take
any.
when we had his bell and his whip, did we take those with us?
I thought we kept. I don't think we gave them back.
Yeah, do we
So
have a
Magnus
whip?
would still. If
It
Magnus,
would.
would you have
'Cause I
just like
know
dumped
that
them?
we took them with us back to the hotel, but I don't ever think that we gave them back.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
then
think so.
Magnus would probably still be carrying them.
Yeah,
All right, it's up to
I'll
you.
ask
So,
Magnus if he has his.
You want to show the whip?
I'll present the bell.
Yeah, I'll-
Mhm.
okay. I'm going to say that you don't have that with you at dinner.
Dang it.
So you'll have to figure out a way after dinner to acquire it and then maybe present that. But do you want to mention that you have this to him now, or do you want to just hold off?
I
I'll
will
mention it.
say, I'll say to him that we don't have our stuff right now, but after dinner, I might be able to check and see if I have anything or information on him.
Okay. The Lord seems satisfied, and he's like, it would be my pleasure to assist you in whatever ways that I can.
Thank you.
As the dinner's cleared away, you see bowls of different fruits are brought out for a dessert, and there's fine wine, superb quality wine, refilled into your goblets.
No dwarf?
No, you notice subtly that when the food is being brought out, the steward like nervously looks at the Lord and like looks at the bowls, and the Lord like just nods. So you guys enjoy some dessert, you enjoy some wine. As you're finishing up the dinner, Blazu is like, most excellent. There's nothing better than great hospitality. And I am truly appreciative, as are my friends, of your wondrous hospitality this day, my lord. I was wondering if perhaps, being such a noble yourself, you may know of any location in the Mantirum where perhaps there would be cliffs overlooking the ocean. You see, I have a fondness for the coast, as I have never been there, and I've only heard stories of your beautiful eastern coast. The Lord is like, well, our coast is beautiful. And in fact, one of the finest and most beautiful locations is in the far southeast of the peninsula. There is a small village that boasts a gentle harbor with a black sand beach. It is something truly to behold. But cliffs, no, not that I can think of. There are not really any mountains along our eastern coast, or southern coast for that matter. So I apologize, my friend, but I'm not sure who told you that there would be cliffs. But there are certainly many beautiful shorelines and vistas that you would be able to see. So where is it that you are all traveling? Is it to the city of Zidmer then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
A fine city, and in fact, one of our greatest trade hubs. You will find many travelers, such as those with whom you are familiar from Kabul Kailish, and some you may find from other areas, Parmians perhaps, but mostly, due to its location, you would find folks from Kabul Kailish who come to trade. Of course, make sure that while you are in the walled city that you visit the market. It is renowned for craftsmen and the products they make.
That will indeed help us. Thank you.
Well, I myself am pleased to have had you in my home. But tomorrow I too must be traveling, so I will leave you tonight, and may you have fine rest tonight in my home.
Thank you.
He backs out of the room. After that, the steward comes in and he's like, my lords and ladies, you may retire to your rooms, or if you are not yet ready for sleep, you may relax and enjoy more aperitifs in the parlor. I would be happy to escort you there.
Could I talk to one of the slaves now?
After the blue tiefling leaves, you notice that the humans start kind of like clearing plates away, and so that you have an opportunity.
Okay. I just want to like, so like I know they're like slaves for a noble, but are they getting like hurt? Like, would I know that?
You, not by any perception that you could see, like they don't seem marked in any way. They don't seem shackled in any way. They don't have scars or tattoos or anything that would seem to indicate anything like that to you.
I just want to like go up and ask them like, so how do you like serving?
That's like being a slave.
And in nicer terms though. How do you like staying here and serving him?
The man you talk to is like, it is my honor to be here. This is one of the great and old noble houses. We are blessed with fertile lands. We provide the sustenance to so many in the Mantirum. Our family has served this household for generations.
So you're okay doing this?
What else would I do?
Haven't you ever dreamed of doing something else?
I don't necessarily know what else I would do. We have all of the things that anyone would need. We have great comforts, food, clothing, shelter, families.
Does he treat you kindly?
Of course. He like seems confused that you would even ask the question.
Oh, okay.
He's like, we are very fortunate.
I'm glad you like it here then.
Like my grandmother lived until she was 95 on this estate.
Wow.
We are healthy. We have the freedom to do what we should want to do. And he's like, I just returned last week from a short trip to the lake. My family enjoyed camping and fishing, and like my wife was writing in her books, and it's like we are educated. We have all of the benefits of anyone could want in life, and furthermore, never wanting for anything nor fearful of anything. We're safe here and healthy.
I'm glad. Thank you for chatting with me.
Should anyone become ill, our Lord heals them immediately. The only death that comes here is that which is natural, the end of life, when one is old.
You guys
Well,
sound slavery pretty well. I mean,
How do you feel about the other slaves? Like, do you feel like you're cooler than them, or?
Oh, you mean the workers in the fields?
Yeah, non-noble slave.
No, my brother is one of them. He is a great craftsman. He can, if there is anything that one needs related to leather, he is able to craft it and repair and restore leather. He's my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, is one of the finest blacksmiths in the area. He is responsible for shoeing the Lord's horses himself.
Pretty nice.
They are actually very benefited. They were able to accompany my lord on one of his recent trips to the capital. They were able to attend the great celebration of the moon. He says that like it's like you guys know what that is. So clearly we are fortunate.
Well, thank you for chatting. I'm glad to hear that.
Can't argue with that.
He bows and the steward returns and he's like, the parlor is yours. Come. And he leads you into another great room. This room is adorned in lush furniture, like upholstered furniture, fine wooden crafted tables. And there is a complete, on the mantle over the fireplace is just a row of bottles of different liquors and wines. And he's like, my lord has requested that I remind you that anything in his home is for you to enjoy. And please let me know if there's anything you would like.
Thank you.
We do have entertainment as well. If you would like some entertainment, I can bring in some of our very talented storytellers or musicians to perform for you. My lord has an extensive library of historical books and books which cover the sciences and medicines as well. You are free to peruse them in his library. And he gestures to a table full of clean goblets, crystal goblets, and then nods to the mantle of liquors, and then gestures to the library, and nods and bows out. A few moments later, you notice two human women and a human man come in, and they're carrying musical instruments. One has like a lute, and the other has like a small wooden flute. And then the man goes over to this cloth covered thing and pulls the cloth off, and it's this huge harp. And they kind of get into position and they begin playing this gentle music. It's very relaxing. So do any of you do anything in particular?
I
Seems like
would
a
like
pretty
to
good
go
opportunity.
to the library.
Okay.
Anyone wants to come with me? I'm taking a bottle of liquor and I'm going to the library.
So this is a massive room, right? It's like 20 by 40. So it's all in one room. In the far corner are the three musicians playing their gentle music, very soothing music. Kind of in the center is this huge ornate fireplace with a mantle full of liquor. And then there are built-in, like oak built-in bookshelves flanking each side of the fireplace, and there's tables and upholstered chairs where you could sit, read, relax, have drinks, talk, whatever.
Okay.
So
Well,
you go to the library?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at any books that might have anything to do with geography of the Mantirum, or like religious stuff. Anything that might have to do with Deepa or the mouth of Deepa or the tier, stuff like
Okay. You go ahead and make your investigation check.
that. Okay. If anybody else would like to come on down and look at books with me, I'm not the best at this stuff.
Well, I'm not great either, but if I got a goblet of wine already, I can come
Right.
and try to assist you in your book finding.
All right, party.
Amity, do you want to dance?
Wait, don't you need to bring the bell to the dude?
Dang it, I do. but I'll
yeah,
dance a little first.
we can do that.
Dance
Well,
to him.
did the Lord say that he was leaving tonight?
He said that he was going to retire. Now you're not quite sure what that means.
Like
But
that.
Blueskin, so the Blueskin steward is like right out in the hallway, like
Oh.
literally waiting for you to ask him for anything.
Sure. I'll ask the steward really quickly if his Lord is, like he said he was leaving tomorrow, if he's leaving like tonight to go travel tomorrow or is leaving in the morning.
No, my lord is at his study. Is there something you need? I'm sure he would be happy to assist you.
Oh no, there was just something I had to bring him later. Just making sure that he was
I
gonna
would
be
be
around.
happy to facilitate this for you. He's like,
Okay,
allow me
thank
to escort you. He leads you back upstairs
okay.
to the rooms.
Wait, I'll take Magnus with me. Magnus, come here quickly.
Okay. You go back up to your rooms, you root
Yeah.
through your stuff, and you find the bell.
Okay.
He
Okie
he
dokie.
he looks at the bell and he's like, yes, to my lord's study. Please follow me. He leads you off to back downstairs, down the long hall, and there's a closed door. He puts his hand up to the door. No sound is made, but you hear a voice on the other side that says, come in. The blue steward opens the door and he bows and then steps out of the way. And the Lord looks at you two and he's like, greetings, my friends. You see his study is not a small room either. It is like a 15 by 15 room. And on 3 of the walls, there are no windows. On 3 of the walls are floor to ceiling shelves with more books. And he sits at a massive oak desk with a black granite slab across the top. And you notice on his desk are like several maps and like a book, like a ledger book. And you notice he has this strange contraption that is unlike anything you've ever seen. And it has a bunch of different colored beads on it, and the beads seem to be in different positions. And you notice that he like moves his finger and several of the beads just slide over as like, you recognize it as like some mage hand action, but you're still not quite sure what he's doing. But he's like, how may I assist you? And he waves his hands like this, and like the books close, the maps slide over, and like a amount of room on his desk opens up.
Okay, well, I was digging through my stuff to see if I had anything from Baron Arzak, and we did possess something that he dropped when we met. It's this bell.
Yes. You had
And
mentioned that.
I'll motion to Magnus who has the bell. I don't know that it'll be of much use, but it's something.
Interesting. He says, this is, he doesn't touch it, but when you set it down on the table, he looks at it. He's like, and this was in the possession of this man, this Baron Arzak, you said?
Yes.
Yes.
Very interesting indeed. Indeed. I believe I can help you.
Oh.
He stands. His golden robe kind of like flows as he stands. He walks over to one of his shelves, and you notice on one of the shelves are a variety of small pots and glass jars. And he kind of browses through and he's like, yes, that will do. And then he sits down, and then he kind of like, without even barely looking out of his peripheral, you see one of the jars float over and like gently set down on his desk. And he like looks at your bell, and then he looks and he waves his hand. The top of the jar comes off, and you see what looks like some fur or hair come out of it and like gently fall into his hand. And he cups his hand over it, and he's staring at the bell. Then he brings his hands down to just gently touch the top of the bell as it's sitting on the desk, and he seems to be concentrating. This one who you speak of, this Baron Arzak, he is not far. He is in the city of Zidmer as we speak.
Thank you for your help. That was fantastic.
You should know something, or it would be wrong of me to omit truth from a guest. There are some within the bureaucracy who abuse their power. They are not good. There are also some who are allowed to abuse their power. And though they are not good, they are permitted to do so. The ones who utilize things like this, you may have a difficult time distinguishing who is an abuser of power and who is allowed to do this. So be wary in your interactions.
What
Thank you.
category might this Baron fall under?
I do not know, for I do not know this person by name, nor do I know their family name, as you have not been able to share it with me. This person who you have named as Baron Arzak may have another name, in fact. If this person works in a certain capacity for the bureaucracy, he may have an entirely different identity.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yes, we appreciate it a lot.
It is my honor. You guys back out of the room,
Yes.
Yes.
and the door closes, even though no one touches it. The steward leads you back to the parlor. You see your friends are there. Varna is asleep on one of the couches with the boy like crumpled on top of her. The music seems to have just lulled them both to sleep with its boredom and lack of drums. So meanwhile, does anyone else want to do any reading or utilizing of the library in any way?
I
So,
will be assisting Areia.
okay, so Areia, you and Capella start looking through books, geography, history, that kind of stuff. I will let you make your investigation roll at advantage with the assistance of your friend.
Okay. That's a 16.
You guys spend a good hour poring over books. And you discover some references that are interesting because they talk about the history of the sea levels along the coast. And that at some points, the sea levels have been very high, and some points they've been low. At some points, the Magocracy had to actually conduct wonderful feats of both engineering and magic to dredge the harbor to make it deeper for larger ships. But in this history, you also discover that in the last 50 years, the sea levels have risen. And that seawalls have been actually have had to be brought up higher to protect their coast from eroding. And that massive engineering projects and magical projects have been put into place to create these high seawalls to keep the water, the sea level, from coming up and eroding their land. But that's about as much as you find in information on the coast.
I will turn to Capella and say, so from all this reading we've done, the sea level seemed to be just getting higher and higher, like really high. So do you think there's maybe a possibility that what we're looking for could have been swallowed by the sea? You know, maybe what we're looking for, because they said there aren't any cliffs, but maybe they're, I don't know, like underwater or something?
Yeah,
Because these things seem very old. Like, remember when we got the Milk of Usek, like, the place we went to seemed like it was super old.
I think maybe. And it seems like in general this land tends to change. So it's possible that this original mouth of depot or volcano-like structure is underneath the water, just off the coast.
Could be. I don't know. What do you guys think?
See, the last time we went to a giant volcano-like structure, it had water at the bottom, and we found a stone there. So maybe that's a trend with these things.
Maybe
All of them are at the bottom of a volcano. There's gonna be a fire lava guy. We're gonna have to speak infernal to him, and then he's gonna slap one of us trying to escape something.
I think the fire elemental language is Ignin.
Is
All
that a
right.
thing?
What is
Yeah.
that language?
All
I'm
right,
not even joking.
Magnus,
Alright,
you
well,
better start
I-
learning a
Aqua
different
Ignis.
language.
If he happens to use that character, then we wouldn't.
Then
be
I
able to
know a
talk to him.
then I know a spell how to talk to or how to comprehend
screwed.
languages, I think.
Yeah, that wouldn't go as well.
All right, Magnus,
Unless it's
you
just
better start
Vorsu.
reading quickly. Learn a
Better
different
read some-
language.
Unless it can write.
Wait,
So you guys enjoy some time, you enjoy some gentle music, and at a certain point you all feel very tired after your wonderfully relaxing day. And you're looking forward to sleeping in those plush bedrooms. Bullstrong, you pick up your son and carry him and your weary wife, and you go to your bedroom. You you realize as you go to the bedroom that this is the first time you've slept in a bed with your wife. And though it is a king-sized bed, it is still very small, and both of your feet are hanging off the bed. And when you both get in the bed, it's like kind of one of those things where even though the bed's like very well made and sturdy, it's like the wood's straining to handle both of your powers.
Okay.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's what happens. You
That's
go to
rough.
sleep.
is Storm in the bed with us?
No, Storm is in a small bed across the room, and he's out,
Okay,
totally asleep.
that's all.
All of you go to your beds. You're exhausted. Fade to black. You sleep. You wake up, and you are better rested than you felt in weeks. Like the kind of sleep where you're like, oh, like your body just feels restored. In the morning, you dress, you gather your things. The steward welcomes you to have breakfast before you set out. The table is set. You are brought, again, another amazing buffet of every possible breakfast food that you could want. You eat up. Blazu is once again just spinning yarns about adventures. And then you guys kind of get all of your stuff. You head back out to the wagons. Your horses have been fed and brushed and cleaned, washed, cleaned. Their manes are brushed out better than they've ever been. Bullstrong, your massive stallion
I was
is
gonna ask.
he is immaculate. His mane of black hair is perfectly straight, no tangles in it. You notice, by the way, that all of your horses have fresh horseshoes on them.
Wow,
Nice.
that's so nice.
The wagon looks like the canvas sheet that covered it was actually removed and washed. Like all the mildew and mold stains on it are gone. You notice that where there was chips of paint in the wood on the wagon have been touched up. And like it's been like basically like repainted. The wagon's been like repainted.
Wow.
You guys get all of your stuff. You get on your horses. The steward escorts you back to the road.
Wow.
And as he's standing there, the gates are open. You guys kind of pass through slowly. He looks at all of you and bows, and he's like, "May your journey to Zidmare and your experiences in that great city be blessings."
Thank you for all your help.
He bows 3 times, does not turn his back. You notice as you guys go down the road, even 100 yards down the road, you notice that he's still standing at attention. Hundreds of yards later, you look back, and just on the horizon, you finally see him walk away. And that is where we will end this episode of The Vixens. As the Vixens,
No!
Ouch.
sorry. You know what? I did 2 shows today, and I'm old. Of the Medusas. Rewind. And that is where we will end this episode of The Medusas. Thank you to all of our fine friends and patrons for tuning in today. It's only 7:30 here in Chicago, but I'm totally going to bed in like 15 minutes because I'm old. But on our next adventure next week, we will see what happens when the Medusas arrive in the epic walled city of Zidmare. So until that time, may you have a great week. Stay healthy and strong, friends, and we'll see you next time. Karafa, take us away.
Beep, 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 beep.